Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the ScruffyMovies podcast. I'm Zach Wallace.
And I'm John Crocker.
And as you've seen from the image and the title today, we will be doing a Fool's Gold movie review podcast. Now, I know you might be asking yourself, why Fool's Gold? Why have we waited so long? Well, it's a corner piece of cinema, and we thought it was one that really needed its own kind of day in the sun. I feel like when it came out, it was very underappreciated. People didn't really like it as much as they should have. So we're hoping to kind of kickstart back up some interest in the Fool's Gold franchise, because I honestly think it has legs that it can stand on and be its own universe.
I mean, we're talking like top 5 greatest movies of all time ever.
Oh, for sure. I cannot wait until the FGU gets up and running and we see spinoffs for Matthew McConaughey, Kate Hudson. What was The Boat up to before Matthew McConaughey got it? Who knows? Let it have its own miniseries on Netflix. We got to find this stuff out.
Yeah, well, it was the girl's boat, right? I mean, they mentioned that. She owned it, not him. So I'm very curious to know.
Yeah, it's insane. But so April Fools, we're not doing a Fool's Gold podcast.
But we should.
I was wondering how long we could go for.
I was wondering how long you were going to let it go.
Yeah, so we're not doing a Fool's Gold podcast, but we are doing something a little bit different than we've done before, since this was predicated on the fact that it was a joke that we're putting up. We have decided to kind of do almost an amalgamation episode. So I've prepared a few movies on my end that I really like, that I want to talk about in a podcast, but it's not enough to be able to dedicate an entire episode to it. And then the same with Crocker. He's prepared some on his side. I don't know what his are. He doesn't know what mine are. And we're just going to kind of talk about them for an hour or so. Just stuff that we really like, but it just wouldn't fit the format of an hour-long podcast.
Totally. So I didn't really know exactly what to go for when I was thinking about this. And I have no idea, as we just mentioned before the podcast started, the recording. I don't know what you have and you don't know what I have. But I kind of came at this looking at Fool's Gold, because we do need to talk about that one for a little while. I believe it is actually kind of underrated. But I went at this from like, what sort of romantic comedies from like the early aughts that are like more action-y and not just total like chick flicks, like that's with the water theme. Water as an underlying theme are kind of the movies I picked.
Gosh, you went in line with Fool's Gold. I went I just didn't even care. I just wrote stuff down that I wanted to talk about.
Oh Lordy. Well, let's start with Fool's Gold then, and I'll kick this off because This actually is like one of, I would say, my favorite like chick flicky movies. Like if you're in a situation where romantic comedy is like on the platter, then Fool's Gold definitely has enough action, I think, to sort of keep you in with it. It came at one of those times in my life where I was all about living on the water. I was all about treasure hunting as like an actual career option. Like that went through my brain at about the point in my life that this movie came out. And it just sort of hit the nail on the head with like so many things. I think it definitely hit me a bit harder to the core probably than most people. You have to give it that. But it's not terrible. I mean, Matthew McConaughey it was definitely when he was playing that same character in like every movie, where it's just like this shirtless dude that just smoked a joint before the camera started rolling.
Before he had his renaissance.
Right. Yeah, and during halftime here, we'll probably talk about how he's keeping that going. So anyway, what do you think about Fool's Gold? What's your actual opinion on that movie?
I remember going to the theaters. I've seen Fool's Gold one time, and we went to go see it in theaters, and I didn't think it was a bad movie. I don't think it can hold its own universe like we were talking about there at the beginning. But yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm racking my brain for like thoughts from 11 years ago Zach had on Fool's Gold. I remember liking it, and that's about it. I remember thinking that it was a good movie, but honestly, if you asked me to tell you the plot, I would say it was Matthew McConaughey looking for treasure, and that's about as far as I could get you.
Oh, terrible, terrible. You should totally go back and rewatch it. I haven't seen it myself in probably a decade. So I watched it a lot when it first came out, probably. But just another little like tidbit, and one other thing I want to throw out there and have it on record on the podcast. My bio on our company website actually says that I think Fool's Gold is the greatest movie of all time. And that's probably more funny for Zach and not necessarily the listeners, because our copywriter. And I made like one comment in passing one time about how it was not a bad movie and it deserves more credit. And I wound up with, at least 5 years now worth of my bio out there for the world to see. And it talks about Fool's Gold for at least 50% of the entire bio.
That's actually where the idea of this came from, because I brought it up to Crocker as a joke, because when I first read it, legitimately thought that was like your favorite movie. And so I was like, should we do like a Fool's Gold podcast? I know it's like your favorite movie, right? And he just started laughing and then told me the story that he just told everybody else. And I was like, oh, so it's not really? He was like, no. It was like, what a weird, like just a random movie to pick and like put somewhere as like, this is my favorite movie, Fool's Gold.
All right, so I'm gonna lead us into the second one here too, just because I consider these as like twin movies.
Okay.
Like, you can't talk about.
Let me guess.
Gold.
Into the Blue.
Yes, dude.
I knew it.
Well, yes, and that would be like third on my list. So they're like triplet movies.
Oh, I don't know what the other one could be.
Well, let's do Into the Blue. Paul Walker, again, sunken treasure, again, like treasure hunting couple, again, like Jamaican / Bohemian, like bad guy gangsters that are coming after them. And this, I don't know how to say this, but there's a strong possibility that Into the Blue might actually be a better movie than Fool's Gold.
Whenever we started talking about making this podcast, I never thought that we would get to a place where I would hear the complete sentence. I don't know how to say this, but I think Into the Blue might be a better movie than Fool's Gold.
What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I like Into the Blue way more than I like Fool's Gold. I actually remember Into the Blue more than I remember Fool's Gold. I think Fool's Gold is more of a like romantic comedy movie with the action treasure hunting aspect. I would argue that Into the Blue is a treasure hunting adventure movie with like romance kind of in the background.
Very much so. It is more of a, like, I don't want to say Fast and the Furious style movie just because Paul Walker is at the top of the list, but it is definitely more like jet skis going everywhere, like badass old truck, way more of what I guess would fall in line with like the XXX movies and like the Fast and the Furious movies and more stuff from sort of that era. It is an action movie made from that same DNA as those other movies. And it just so happened to be a treasure hunting couple, which ingrained it with rom-com elements, but it was not a purpose-built rom-com like Fool's Gold was.
Yeah, it wasn't like from the start, they weren't like, hey, it would be good if we did a rom-com about adventure treasure hunting couple, because then they'd just be like, well, we're going to make Fool's Gold in a couple years, so might as well just save it for that. Paul Walker can't handle those Matthew McConaughey lines.
Nope. And Paul Walker might have like 2 hairs on his chest, which would just, totally negate him for being able to take the role.
God, this is such a weird podcast. This is not what I thought when we were going into this, what we would end up actually talking about Fool's Gold.
Well, all right, so let's get back to really what I would say. Fool's Gold and Into the Blue are more twin movies because their plots are virtually identical. Like, if you didn't know that one was an adventure and one was a rom-com, they would be very, very similar to one another. Mm-hmm. But sort of in the Fool's Gold Matthew McConaughey like genre of what was going on between like 2003 and 2008, Sahara would be the other one. I always, when I think of Fool's Gold, I always think of Sahara as well.
I also have only seen Sahara one time, and it was at drive-in movie theaters. The first time I ever went to the drive-in, we saw Sahara and Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous at the same time. And the only thing I can remember from Sahara is that Steve Zahn, who plays Matthew McConaughey's buddy in Sahara, just kept losing his hats. And I thought it was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen, that he just kept losing his hats that he liked.
You know, I think it's a shame, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I thought them two did well enough together that they deserved a couple buddy comedies. Were they ever in another movie together?
Not that I can think of, but I think that just has to do with Steve Zahn himself. That guy is extremely underrated in Hollywood. In every movie he's in, whether the movie's bad, he's good in it. And he is extremely funny. He can play like the neurotic, straight-laced guy, but make him super funny very easily. And I feel like he's just kind of criminally underrated.
Yeah, he's totally going to be one of those guys that you will know the face because he's played like the supporting role in every movie he's been in, except for a few. And Sahara was one of them. Like, he's rarely ever the center of attention, but he may only have 2 or 3 minutes of screen time, but he does so well with each and every one of his characters that you remember it, you know, whether, like you said, whether the movie sucked or not, you're going to remember that he was that guy wearing the hat in that one scene, you know.
Yeah. There was something, I think somebody was saying it about like Morgan Freeman or like Harrison Ford or something. And they were like, no matter what movie they're in, if the movie's terrible, they're still good. Like, they're just that good of an actors. And I think Steve Zahn is like that. He's just good in whatever he's in. The movie can be bad, but he's good.
Yeah, totally.
I just think he doesn't have the best, like, he doesn't make his choices well sometimes.
What other movies? He had more of a leading role in at least one movie that's come out semi-recently, right? Like, he's actually kind of...
He was in, the main thing I know him from is Saving Silverman. He played basically one of the main roles in that besides Jason Biggs and Jack Black. He was in Daddy Daycare. He played the third guy that gets hired at the Daddy Daycare. He was in the first 3 Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. He played the dad in those. And then he was just most recently in War for the Planet of the Apes. He played an ape that they meet up along their journey called Bad Ape. And he played that. And that was like my favorite part of the whole movie.
So maybe not then. Maybe he hasn't had like a big frontward facing starring role.
Yeah, none that are coming to my mind. I'm sure he's had stuff out there, but I just can't think of it.
Was he one of the Ridiculous Six?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I see that listed as him being credited, but I don't think I've ever actually sat all the way through that.
I did once. I think the theme of this podcast is movies Zach has seen one time.
Yep. All right. Take us to something on your list, because we've done basically 3 of mine.
Okay. Well, mine, I didn't go like specifically movie for movie, and I definitely didn't go Fool's Gold adjacent. So mine are more like genres or things I like about specific movies. So one of the first ones that came to my head when I was thinking about this, which I don't think we could dedicate an entire episode to, is I have really always liked like horror movies, but that are made for kids. So I have some written down here: Monster Squad, Paranorman, Goosebumps, Tower of Terror, The Haunted Mansion. So movies that are geared towards a younger audience, but they are more scary or horror specific. And I'm not sure why I like them so much. If I had to think of a reason why, it would probably be the Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark TV series that we had growing up, which kind of instills that like it's scary, but it's never too scary where you have to like turn it off. It's never something so incredibly scary that you can't watch it anymore. And so there's just something I like about that, where it's like it's more, it feels more like Halloween, I guess, if that makes sense, than horror movies. Like I feel like these, like the kids movies celebrate more the season of Halloween and like the themes of monsters and stuff really than legitimately just killing people and stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of that could come down to the fact that when you're making a kids movie, or at least if you want to draw in that audience, you cannot use like you cannot abuse jump scares, you can't leverage gore, you have to be more creative about how you present the movie, and a lot of times that actually makes for some really good movies.
Yeah, and I always find like that I mean, like people get scared now. Like, you can be scared of like if you hear a noise outside, you have that one quick thing that runs through you that's like, oh man, what is that? But then you're like, probably a squirrel. And you kind of go back to it. But when you're a kid, like your imagination just runs wild of like what could actually be out there. So seeing kind of the imaginations run wild in these movies leads to very interesting stuff. And I always like that like kids are the ones that have to take the mantle because they tell their parents and they're like, hey, Frankenstein's in town, and their parents are like, haha, you've been watching too many movies. And so it's always up to the kids. Like they're the ones with where the magic is still real, and they have to find a way to defeat it on their own. No adults are listening to them. And I think there's something that kind of can speak to everybody, like every inner child like that. Everybody, whether they're 80 or if they're 6, can still sit down and watch like Monster Squad and find something to like in it.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to how well they've gotten at making some of those like kids movies now in general. Like especially, I mean, Pixar has just always been the best at it, but people have started to pick up and learn that guess what? When the family goes to the movies, it's the mother and the father and the older siblings and sometimes the grandmother, or grandparents are in there too. And if you can hold everyone's attention, then they're more likely to come see your next movie.
Yeah, like there, we went to go see Paranorman when it came out, and it just like absolutely blew me away because it is a story for children. It's a stop motion animated movie, the same kind of style as like Coraline and stuff. It's from Leica, who makes all those movies, but they straight up make a Halloween reference in like the first 10 minutes. And if you hadn't seen the original John Carpenter Halloween, you wouldn't have got it. It just was like a haha moment. But to me sitting there in the audience, I was like, oh my God, they just made a Halloween reference. I couldn't believe it. Like this little kids movie was making references from horror movies from the 1970s.
And I mean, some of those Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes were legitimately scary. Like some of those would have been just as at home on Tales from the Crypt.
Oh yeah, there's a few, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like it was never scary enough. Like they always gave you the hope that the kids were going to pull through. It was never scary enough where you felt like you had to change the channel. But there for like 10 minutes or so, you are kind of going, oh no.
Yeah. The Goosebumps stuff was never as bad. And I was a huge fan of the Goosebumps books too. But the shows were never as scary as the Are You Afraid of the Dark shows.
Yeah, I can agree with that. There's just something about Are You Afraid of the Dark? And sometimes like they never showed kids getting killed, but they definitely ended episodes with kids like still stuck in traps or mazes or stuff. Like they definitely killed some kids on that show, but they never showed it. But like kids died. Like the story just ended and the kids didn't make it out.
Totally. Well, I have no horror anything on my list because all mine is absolutely Fool's Gold adjacent.
Oh my God. All right, well, what's your next one?
Oh, Lordy. Oh, I got all kinds of them. I think while we're talking about Matthew McConaughey, we must mention Failure to Launch.
I have never seen Failure to Launch.
Never seen Failure to Launch?
Never
Just
seen it.
basically think about what, like, the life that that Matthew McConaughey from Fool's Gold led in, like, the 2 years leading up to Fool's Gold would be Failure to Launch.
You are like really testing my movie memorability knowledge right now.
It's, again, though, like, it totally falls in that category of, like, it is a rom-com, it should be a chick flick, but it's not like such a super girly movie. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense to you?
Well, yeah, and I've since I've been old enough to kind of accept the movies that I like I know that and probably listeners out there know, I I've always been kind of scared to admit my true likes of certain things, like Pretty Little Liars and stuff like that. But it just got to be a point where I was like, well, I like what I like, so oh well. So yeah, all that like the chick flick and romance and like girly movies and stuff. Yeah, none of that bothers me. I don't care if it's like girly or like however it's described. Cool with me. If I'm interested in the story, then I'm interested in the story. So none of that ever bothers me. I've seen both Magic Mikes.
I definitely have a line where it's like, okay, like I totally like this movie is either like way too sappy, or it's like trying too hard for the tears, or even like the Magic Mike movies where it's like, obviously this is just made for girls, and I get that and respect that, but I should not, I do not want to sit through it for a third time, like, but some of these other movies I feel like are totally like more rewatchable for couples, I guess, and both can enjoy them because they don't tug on heartstrings and that type of thing. Does that make sense? I guess you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, and I mean that I think that's more like movie specific on certain things. Like there's like you can like we can look at Failure to Launch and be like, well, that movie is more fun than The Notebook. Just from like coming from a standpoint of I don't want to cry, I just want to laugh and like maybe also see a romance story. So let's watch this instead of The Notebook. But yeah, I get where you're going for sure.
Yeah, more fun is a good way to put it there.
Yeah.
And like, and they don't always have to be chick flicky either. Like, I don't want to watch I never want to sit through Marley and Me again. Just don't want to do it to myself.
Oh no, I have a rule where if an animal is the main character of a movie, I won't watch it because either the animal is gonna die or get extremely hurt. And in every movie where an animal is the main character, 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. So I'm good. I'm just not gonna put myself through that.
You need to go back and watch Homeward Bound.
No, I ain't gonna watch it. I remember watching it as a kid and it scarred me. Same with Air Bud. The only thing that was safe about Air Bud is like the later sequels where they made them specifically for like 10-year-olds.
Did they die? Did one of them die in Homeward Bound?
The golden retriever was like, hey, why don't you just leave me here to die? I'm too tired and I can't go on. And they were like, no, you have to keep going. And he was like, no, I'm just gonna die in this mud pit alone. And yeah, no, it's pretty scarring. And then they definitely the pit bull, I think it's a pit bull, gets like his face messed up by a porcupine or something. There's a lot of stuff in those movies that are like,
I remember that. Yeah, that was hilarious. But I feel like they all three made it back.
They did make it back. None of them died. But yeah, it goes through, but that's the same. That speaks to the part of my rule about being hurt. I'd just rather not see it. I'll watch something else.
Yeah, well, Homeward Bound, I think, definitely falls in the category of one of those movies that shouldn't have its own podcast. So I'm glad we've covered it a little bit here.
Homeward Bound,
I definitely watched that. That was totally like when you were riding in, or me at least, riding in like my grandparents' van when I was a kid, and they had the full size TV. Like this was one of the 5 VHSs when we would go to like Six Flags or somewhere where we were riding with the whole family. This is one that would just be on repeat.
Oh yeah, I remember those. I mean, there was one that was very poorly installed in one of my friend's parents' vans, and the only VHS they had was Angels in the Outfield. So I don't know how many times we watched Angels in the Outfield in that van, but it was a lot.
That's another great one. That had old Glover in it, didn't it? What's his name?
Yeah, Danny Glover, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, all kinds of people in it. Matthew McConaughey's in that one too.
Yeah, he is. Gosh, I didn't even think about that.
We're just doing a Matthew McConaughey podcast.
That's pretty much what this is. I'm about to run out of Matthew McConaughey movies on my list, though.
Well, another one on my list, since we just mentioned Magic Mike and maybe some of the more sappier movies. And I mentioned this in the very first episode, and it kind of speaks to what I was just speaking on in the fact that I don't really care what you think about my interests anymore. If I like it, I like it. And if you don't, you don't. But that would be the Bring It On and Step Up movies. Now, I don't know where my interest in these came from because I'm not into watching dance like as an art form or anything. I never just go on YouTube and I'm like, yeah, let me see some people dance. But something about the dance just being wrapped around like a Romeo and Juliet love story for some reason just captivated me when I was in high school. And I watched all of them. And then I took my mom to go see the fifth one when I worked at a movie theater, and everybody was like, your mom's making you go see Step Up. And I was like, yup. And then really my mom was like, hey, what's that? And I was like, shut up, Mom, they're dancing. And I remember getting really into the Bring It Ons one time when I was sick, and they had a marathon of them on like the USA Network or something. And me and my dad watched like 3 or 4 of the Bring It On movies back to back one time on the USA Network when I was homesick. From like 9 a.m. until like 6 at night, we watched Bring It On movies. And that just, as they have like a special place in my heart now. So those are 2 franchises that are extremely, I mean, they are at least geared towards the demographic of young adult women. And every time a new one comes out, I just can't help but love it.
Yeah, those are certainly on my list of like having seen them once and will probably never watch them again. I think the first of each of those was probably the best. I don't know. You would be better to speak on that.
Yeah, definitely Bring It On 3 or 4 is probably my favorite. Bring It On All or Nothing or Bring It On In It to Win It. Those are the really good ones. And then also I just really like Step Up 3D. I really think it brings a new dimension, pun entirely intended, to the franchise. And then also Step Up All In, which just, takes everybody's characters and kind of brings people back from all the franchises, puts them together in one movie, wraps everything up. It's just really ultimately ends up being likable and fun for the whole gang.
How many are there of each?
5 step-ups and 2 seasons of a YouTube original television show, and there are 6 Bring It Ons currently.
It's not as terrible as I thought.
No, they're definitely not up. They're not in like the double digits, but I mean, they're for like franchise status that aren't like big budget action movies and stuff now. They're up there.
Jeez. Yeah, I could see myself potentially one day just sitting down and being like, you know what? Let's go through them, or at least a few of them.
Yeah, I mean they're not bad movies. They're not. I mean, they're easy to just kind of turn on. You don't have to be glued to the screen the whole time. If you miss a scene, you probably are going to get told what just happened in the scene again, like in the next couple scenes. So you're good to kind of just have it on in the background or something, but still get all of the information you need from every movie.
And sometimes that's like what I'm searching for in a movie. Like that's one thing nobody really talks about, but with today's Netflix and Hulu and Prime Video and everything else, like if you don't have TV, occasionally you just need something going in the background.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think that there is no shortage. Really, the only movies you can do that to, having not seen new, are movies that where like the stories are kind of the same, like what the story's going to be, or just movies that you've seen a million times and you're like, okay, it's comfort food. I don't need to pay attention. Just to know that it's on will get me in a better mood.
Totally.
Kind of like Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah.
It's just comfort food.
God, that was another one that we need to do. Like, I don't even know what I would classify like Homeward Bound and Angels in the Outfield and
a 90s Disney podcast.
Yeah, are those both 90s Disney?
Yeah.
Yeah, then I guess that works.
Maybe not. There was one, gosh, I wish I could remember now. There was Homeward Bound, and then there was like the Incredible Journey or something like that, like the Journey Home. And one of them was Disney and one of them wasn't.
The Incredible Journey is the original.
No, there's Homeward Bound, and then Incredible Journey is something different. It's the same story but with different animals.
That's Homeward Bound 2, Boston, San Francisco. And those.
No, it's not Homeward Bound 2. I'm telling you, there's a movie called Homeward Bound, and then there's a movie called The Incredible Journey.
Okay. Oh, what does that sound mean?
That sound means it's halftime.
Whoop!
So for those of you who are tuning into the podcast for the first time, halftime is the part of the show where Crocker and I take a break from the conversation we're having. We talk about recent trailers, recent movie news, recent movies we've seen that we're excited about. This is also the part of our show where we've been doing our free digital code giveaways, and this time is no different. And actually, brand new, just came out last Tuesday, but you know, it has to do with water. And they're on a kind of a treasure hunt in the movie. So the free digital code we're giving away is going to be Aquaman. Brand new Jason Momoa movie just came out last Tuesday. So here's your chance to get it absolutely for free. All you got to do is comment the code word water below or direct message me on Instagram. Again, the code word is water. Just direct message me on Instagram at ScruffyMovies or comment it below. And you'll be entered to win a free digital copy of the brand new movie Aquaman.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. I like it a lot.
It is certainly better than Batman versus Superman.
Oh, 100%.
So
hopefully that will be that little interaction we just had will be explained by a later podcast that we're trying to convince somebody to do.
Yes. So we have to start halftime with more Matthew McConaughey with his shirt off, probably just smoking a joint before the camera turned on. And that would be The Beach Bum, which is a movie that should actually be out right now. I think it came out like this past Friday, and it was certainly one that I think slipped by on the marketing, at least for me, because since we've been doing this podcast especially, I've tried to keep myself abreast to all the new trailers that are dropping and that type of thing. And this is one that I saw probably 6 months ago that this movie was coming. And then it was like nothing, total silence until a week ago. And then I saw a trailer just pop out of nowhere. And it was like, oh yeah, this movie is going to be in theaters like in a 3 days. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but it looks to be just a continuation in the story that Matthew McConaughey seems to play in every movie.
Yeah, and that was something you and I were talking about on Friday. As the guy who directed it, his name's Harmony Korine. He also made Spring Breakers and then a couple other movies. But his movies are more they're not like big pop hits really. Spring Breakers would probably be the closest to being a pop hit, but I still think that one was really enjoyed only by like a certain number of underground. Like it's become a cult movie. His movies are more cult movies than they are like big budget. Everybody's going to go check out The Beach Bum. So the fact that you didn't see a lot of marketing from it probably was pretty on point with what he wanted to do. Like he wanted to get the word out there for people who wanted to see it. But other than that, meh.
Yeah. So it wasn't marketed to the masses on purpose.
Right. It's marketed to the people that would like The Beach Bum.
And then the only other thing on my list, because it is the biggest news ever, was the Star Wars poster leak, which I'm not sure. I'm still not totally convinced that will be the Star Wars poster. I'm not totally convinced that it's even not a complete fake. I think it could still be a complete and total fake. There was also some character models that were leaked as well with that. I say character models, but not like models, more just like photos of the individual characters. People are saying that it could have been an early sort of proof of concept to the poster, and that the character models could have been for, you know, toys and things of that nature, franchise deals and all that, where they've kind of got to get all that information, you know, into production and design long before the movie comes out. But I don't know. I'm not totally convinced. There's still some things that make me think it could just be really well done fan art based on a lot of the images that have come off of set so far, because we really didn't see a lot of like really, really new things on it. And it had a lot of throwbacks from like the prequels and that type of stuff with some of the ships in the background, which just doesn't seem to line up. I mean, they had a Y-wing in it, so those things have got to be like crazy old by now. I don't know. If it is real, then it's huge, and it's the only thing that we've really gotten from Star Wars thus far. So, of course, I'm super pumped about it. But it feels like the world just sort of didn't, like, there was a ripple in the Star Wars universe when this happened, but it wasn't like, oh my God, a leak, like it normally is.
Yeah, and I think that just might have something to do with like it was like there was no really big discernible information from it other than the fact that C-3PO is holding a bowcaster, which is probably Chewbacca's bowcaster. Other than that, it was just like characters that we've already seen just standing in different poses than we've seen them stand in before.
Yeah, and he has Chewie's bowcaster and bandolier, and the bandolier is like obviously oversized on C-3PO. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe like I hope that the droids come and save the day and weaponize, but I feel like they're probably just gonna at some point all hand their weapons to C-3PO and use him as a weapon mule, a gear mule, and that's just where it came from. That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I hope that's not what happens. I really hope C-3PO gets in on the action and starts shooting some people. That would be
Just
really interesting to see for
totally.
C-3PO.
I mean,
I've actually seen really interesting theories where people are kind of talking about, because there was some certain stuff that was coming out with like Avengers Endgame stuff being leaked, where people were like, these leaks are too good. Like these leaks purposefully cover up things that actual leaks wouldn't. And a lot of people are thinking now that Disney may be leaking the stuff itself, because traditional marketing is kind of thrown out the window for these types of franchises. You know, like you can put out trailers and stuff, but like that doesn't really, I mean, it gets people excited, but I mean, you're pretty much in the boat if you're going to see Avengers and Star Wars, or you're not. But putting out leaks and stuff, and that's like the new scoop, you know, it's not like, ooh, a new TV spot. It's like, hey, check out this leaked poster from Star Wars Episode 9, even though it might have come out exactly when they wanted it to. Instead of just releasing it as a promotional material, they released it as a leak, so it went viral.
Yeah, and they realize that, and especially with Marvel and Star Wars, that the hunger is there. Like they know full well that the moment they release a trailer, that there will be not short of 1,000 people going like screen for screen. What's the phrase I'm looking for? Still by still, you know what I mean, of the trailer,
Yeah.
and looking at all the details and what's in the background, and is there anything we can ascertain or see that we weren't supposed to see. Like they know that people are going to dig really deep on anything they release. So if something comes out as a leak, it's like you fed that hunger instead of it just being, oh, a press conference and we have a poster and what to do. It's regular modus operandi.
Yeah, I mean, it's immediately more viral than anything else that they could put out there. If they put out a regular poster, people are like, ah, neat, cool, Star Wars is starting to be marketed. But this is like, oh man, it's an inside scoop that I know, my friend should know about it too. Like it becomes instantly more viral to be leaked than it does to just be released officially. There's just
a C-3PO with a bowcaster is one of the most memeable things of early 2019.
I hope that it's not a beginning of The Last Jedi again, where they tease us with Rey handing Luke the lightsaber, and then as soon as he gets it, he just like throws it away. I hope it's not like that in the movie where C-3PO puts on the bowcaster for like 1 second, and then Chewbacca's like, that's my weapon, and takes it back off of him and puts it on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it'll be something silly. I mean, the Knights of Ren are on it, which is what I've been bitching about, like wanting to know more about them. I still think the only way you really fix Episode 8 is to do an entire Knights of Ren trilogy that fall in between 6 and 7. Like to me, that's still the best way to do it, is to just answer all the questions before the questions can appear in the timeline. So I'm down for that. Looks like he repaired his mask. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we can sort of tell from the poster if it is legit. So I'm pumped. Anything in the Star Wars world will get me pumped, and this is just the most recent thing.
Yeah. Well, is that it for your halftime?
That's it for my halftime.
Okay, I actually have a couple things on mine, and kind of going in line with Star Wars. So there's a new Child's Play movie coming out, a new Chucky movie coming out in June. A big theatrical release. It stars Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec and Brian Tyree Henry from Atlanta. And you know who they just announced to be the voice of Chucky in the new movie?
Who?
Mark Hamill.
What?
He's going to be the voice of Chucky in the new Child's Play movie.
He does a lot of voice work, like
Yeah, he does.
way more voice work than most people realize. I mean, everybody kind of knows him for being like in virtually all animated Batman, anything ever, shows, video games, but he does a lot more voice work than just the Joker.
Yeah, and whenever they announced it, I saw it last night, and I was like, oh, it made me like infinitely. Child's Play is something that, I mean, like I like the Chucky movies and everything, but you know, the original continuity is still going strong. So the fact that they were like, oh yeah, we're doing a remake kind of made me mad. And it's something that hasn't really been on my radar. I knew it was being released, but I haven't stayed up to date on it as I would say like the last Halloween movie that came out, or like the new, like if a new Friday the 13th movie came out. I just haven't really stayed up to date. But now this fact has made me a lot more interested in it than I previously was.
Yeah, I wonder if Mark Hamill is on a bit of a come up right now and a bit of an upswing with, just his own career, because Star Wars came back around for this generation and it reminded everyone that he existed.
Oh, I think for sure. Yeah. 100%. I've seen him in more live action stuff in the past 5 years than I saw between like when Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens came out.
Oh, totally.
The next on my list is Annabelle 3, which is called Annabelle Comes Home, just got a trailer. And this, I think, is going to be really interesting because it starts to tie Annabelle more into the main Conjuring universe. And it looks like Annabelle is going to be the ringmaster for a bunch of spiritual hauntings and possessions going on this time. The trailer looks very interesting. It has to deal with the Warrens' teenage daughter and her two babysitters having to deal with all this paranormal activity that starts going on because Annabelle is in the Warrens' house. The Warrens, played by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson from the Conjuring series, are coming back in it. And they're, I don't think, going to be main characters, but they are at least in the trailers and stuff. So it could be another Expendables effect. They could be in like 5 minutes, but still interesting that they're coming back as characters in this movie, and they haven't been in really any other Annabelle movies or anything. Annabelle 2 was really good, so I'm excited to see what Annabelle 3 can bring. It looks interesting. So, I mean, who knows? Could be another good entry to the Conjuring universe.
That's the universe that I need to catch up on.
Yeah, it's good. I like what they're doing with it. Very interesting the way they're playing it. Because they introduce, like, from this movie where it's about Annabelle, but it has all of these other spiritual items in it. Literally, if people point at one item that's in one scene in the movie and they go, oh, that's scary, they'll make a movie off of it. They'll make 3 movies off of it, and they'll each make $200 million.
Yeah, I've always, people know I like world building and universes and all of that. And I've heard in passing quite a few times that, oh, if you like that, you need to see everything that's going on in the Conjuring universe.
Oh, yeah, they are very, like, you have to pay attention for certain stuff because, like, priests will pop up that were in, like, they were a minor character in one movie, then they're like a big character in another movie, then they just have like a cameo in another movie, and sometimes the cameo is all that links the universes together. So it's really interesting the way they're doing it. But yeah, it's definitely very interesting for like world building stuff.
Awesome.
And then the new Twilight Zone series that's coming out tomorrow, actually. Today, the day that this is posted, the Twilight Zone series should be out. At least the first 2 episodes has been getting rave reviews, and I'm extremely excited to watch that. I'm kind of sad it's coming on CBS All Access. I wish it was just coming on CBS so I wouldn't have to pay an additional fee to watch it or anything, but I'm very excited for that. It's hosted by Jordan Peele, and it's got a lot of good actors coming in, and seems like it will be a really fun time as well. And then finally,
I'm pausing you right there. Well, tell me, what is CBS All Access? Please tell me that's not their own streaming service that we were going to have to pay to as well.
It 100% is. It's been up and running. You know the show Star Trek Discovery, the newest Star Trek show that's up and running right now?
Yeah.
That's where it's coming on at CBS All Access.
I thought that you could get that like maybe on one of the more popular streaming services like Netflix or Prime.
No, it's exclusively on CBS's own streaming service.
How much do you want to bet both of those fell because nobody watches CBS streaming?
I don't. They have a couple shows on there, especially Star Trek Discovery, and they have one called The Good Fight that's a spinoff of The Good Wife that are doing both pretty well for themselves.
Everybody boycott it.
It's been up and running for like 2 years. You're 2 years late to the boycott.
Shh, everybody boycott it. If it weren't for Star Trek, I would be super upset right now.
But yes, that's coming on CBS All Access. I'm kind of sad about it because I don't want to pay an additional fee. I might wait until the entire season's released and then do a free trial to watch every episode really quick and then kind of cancel everything. Because
you can just bootleg it like everyone else in the universe is going to do because no one wants to pay.
I mean, there's probably, I don't know the statistics. I know that whenever they release those like year over year statistics, like these are the shows that were the most pirated. I can like with 80% certainty guarantee you that at least in the top 10 or top 20, Star Trek Discovery.
Yep.
I can about guarantee it.
Guarantee it.
And then finally, just a little piece of news that came out. It's still kind of a rumor at this point. Nothing official has come out about it, but Jai Courtney has said that Captain Boomerang will be in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad and that he will be coming back to play Captain Boomerang. And if you've listened to any of our DC podcasts before, anything where we've mentioned DC, when we talk about Suicide Squad, I always say that I loved Deadshot, Harley Quinn, and Captain Boomerang. They were the three standouts for me, and so I'm really glad that he's being able to come back. I think that's one role that Jai Courtney's been extremely good in. He also kind of has a habit of picking bad movies at the wrong time. I just feel like he hasn't really got his big break yet, even though he just is in movies all the time. I just don't think he's broken through the barrier yet. But Captain Boomerang, I think, could take him there, especially under the guise of under the hand of James Gunn, who I think will treat these characters with a lot more respect than they were shown in the original Suicide Squad, and who will give them all good character arcs, which is something that was also missing from Suicide Squad. There were people who were there just because they realized they could have them in the movie, and so they put them in. And unfortunately, I feel like Captain Boomerang was kind of one of those people in the first Suicide Squad, so I'm excited that he will most likely get his day in the sun in James Gunn's Suicide Squad because I think he's a character that deserves it.
DC is on that upswing, dude. If James Gunn can knock it out of the park, then I will officially say that they are like no longer on the upswing. They are like up and up, on the up and up, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they just had Wonder Woman and then kind of dipped with Justice League, but back up with Aquaman. Shazam's been getting rave reviews. Wonder Woman 1984 is coming out. The new Suicide Squad's coming out. They're shooting a Birds of Prey movie with Harley Quinn and Catwoman and Huntress and a bunch of people like right now that from the set photos looks really good. So I'm interested to see what DC has to bring us.
Yeah, me too.
But that's it for my halftime. That was everything. It was a big list this week.
All right. So back to early aughts rom-coms.
For you, maybe. Yeah, go for it.
Well, how do you want to play this? Because I know we should hit at least one more of yours. I mean, I've got kind of a list here. I could just like read off the list, and then maybe if any tickle your fancy, we could talk about them.
Okay, I only have one more like thing on mine, so I'll burn through mine, and then we can start going through yours and see if any other Matthew McConaughey movies strike a chord.
There you go. Let's do
okay.
it. What do you got?
So the last one on my list is something that it's kind of a weird thing that I'm always interested in, but it's just sequels to movies, and I don't know why this is. It might just be the over consumerized brain in my head, but once a movie has a sequel, the original becomes infinitely more interesting to me for some reason. Like,
Agreed.
I didn't really what
I said I agree.
Yeah, and I don't know why that is in my head. I was never really interested in seeing, like, the first one that's coming to my head is the movie Bad Moms. I was like, don't really care. And then they were like, oh yeah, A Bad Mom's Christmas is coming out. And I was like, I really should check out that movie Bad Moms. Like, I don't know what it is about just movies getting sequels, but it's just extremely interesting to me. And one of my personal downfalls, which people will know about if they follow me on Instagram, is whenever movies have even like kind of just in name sequels, like Jingle All the Way 2 starring Larry the Cable Guy, that has nothing to do with the original Jingle All the Way except for the fact that he's trying to get his kid a toy on Christmas. I am just such a sucker for those movies. Like, I know that they're not going to be very good, and I know that I'm going to be disappointed, but for some reason, whenever they're coming out, I just get so excited to get them. I drove 45 minutes out of my way to get Bigger, Fatter, Liar, which is the sequel to Big Fat Liar, and it was a terrible movie. I've seen it once. I hated it. It was the exact same as Big Fat Liar, except it was a video game instead of a movie. Like, it wasn't even a sequel. It was literally the same movie, except it was a video game that the guy stole instead of a movie. And I drove 45 minutes out of my way to get it the day it released because I couldn't wait to see it.
Jeez.
We went into Walmart about a month and a half ago because I wanted to pick up the new Suspiria. Great movie, beautiful, artistic movie that just came out. I was really excited to see it. It was a remake of an original, beautiful, artistic movie that I really wanted to, that I love. And we went into Walmart. Walmart didn't have it, but they did have Benchwarmers 2, Breaking Balls. So instead of saying, hey, you know what, Walmart doesn't have Suspiria, I'm going to save my money until I get Suspiria, I bought Benchwarmers 2 Breaking Balls, which I didn't even know was coming out until I walked into Walmart. And it was terrible, but it is now in my collection, and it's going to be in there forever, because if I know that there's a movie out there that's in the same continuity as a movie that I love, I have to get it, I have to own it, and it has to be part of my collection. I don't know why I'm like that, but that's the way I am.
I mean, there's a few reasons that I feel the same way. I think the first and most obvious reason is there was enough people out there that thought they should do a second one that it actually got made. So surely either the first one is good or this one will be good, or they're making up for the first one. So it's almost like, you know, I'm sure thinking about it right now, it's hard to come up with some examples, but I know plenty movies that never got a second installation. I mean, Fool's Gold, geez. But like, if those movies didn't get a second and this other movie did, then instantly I want to give more cred and credence to the movies in the franchise or in the lineage or timeline or whatever it may be. And then also, if there is a second one, it's almost like, oh, now I have a reason to watch the first. Like, now there are things to see in that first movie, because if I'm going to get the references and see the callbacks in the next movie, I must know the first at least a little bit. So it like gives you actual incentive and sort of like a reason to go back and watch the first one. At least that's sort of how I justify it, because I feel the same way. Totally.
Yeah, and there's always like I was never really interested in buying all of the High School Musical movies. You know, I watched like the first two when they came out because I was of the age group that movie was just marketed towards. I watched the first two, didn't watch the third one. They had a fourth one that was a spinoff called Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure. Never watched that. And then I was at a Goodwill one time flipping through the DVDs, and I was like, oh, High School Musical 1. Oh, there's 2. There's 3. There's Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure. And I just kind of went, yeah, all right. And I picked up all 4, and I went to get them just because they had the whole franchise there. Like, nothing in my head was like, I need to buy those High School Musical movies because I never finished them and I really need to watch them. But because the whole franchise was there, something in my head was like, when are you going to get this opportunity again? Get them. And so now I have them. They're in my collection, all 4. I got them all.
Yeah, but you just said the magic word there, collection too. And if you're a collector of anything, coins, stamps, you know, baseball cards, if you have, there is like the full set bonus, like like you get from a video game, like you get that bonus whether it's in your own brain or not, for having the full set, because for you, movies are what you collect. Like that is your jam, and if you can get a full set, then it gives you the extra juju.
Yeah, and I've said it before on Instagram. There's something just so it just feels good about like when I was sorting Benchwarmers 2 into my DVD collection, when I got to the first Benchwarmers movie, to be able to put Benchwarmers 2 next to it and then put Benchwarmers in beside it, I was like like just to know that they were together, that I had both of them is like
Uh, you're, yep, you're weird, just like all the other collectors in the world.
I know. And there's something, just those straight to DVD sequels get me. When Jingle All the Way 2 came out, I watched the trailer for it and I looked at my wife, who was at that point my girlfriend, and I was like, man, it's going to suck having to buy that movie. And she was like, what are you talking? Just don't buy it. And I was like, no, that's not an option for me. It's going to be in my collection. I can't just not buy it. It's Jingle All the Way 2. And then I saw it and I didn't like it. And I told myself, if I find it for less than $5, I'll buy it. And it was like one Christmas 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and I was kind of digging through the bins, and there it was, Jingle All the Way 2, and it was $3.74 at Walmart, and I was like, all right, and I went up to the front and bought it.
Nice. All right. So I'm going to read off some of these that I have here on my list, and then you just stop me wherever you feel it's appropriate.
Okay, go for it.
So there's actually not that many on here. Couples Retreat, Vince Vaughn and Happy.
Yeah, I do like Couples Retreat. That is a good movie. That is a very good movie.
I think that's what happens when you mix like a teen movie with a romantic comedy. You get Couples Retreat.
Yeah. Couples Retreat is very good. There was a lot of movies that kind of came out in between, I would like 2000 and 2010, that looked at relationships, just like in general, like married relationships, in more of a funny way. And I feel like it made the men and women equal. Whereas there was a lot of like movies before that where I feel like it only kind of focused on the men they were unhappy in their marriages and stuff, you know? I feel like there was a lot of comedy movies that came out in between that time that kind of focused on everybody equally.
Yeah. You, Me, and Dupree.
I love You, Me, and Dupree. I don't care what anybody says. You, Me, and Dupree is awesome.
I agree.
That movie is hilarious.
Owen Wilson, great. My Best Friend's Girl.
I like My Best Friend's Girl. It's not my favorite, but I have seen it a couple times. It is very interesting.
That movie made me laugh so much. Dane Cook, he's a great comedian in general, but I never will forget the scene where he's like Tank, because his name was Tank, so he would like tank the girls. And he warns her, he says, just be warned, my radio is broken. And she says something like, oh, don't worry, we don't need tunes. And then when he cranks his car up, it's as loud as it can possibly get, the song Pop That Pussy by 2 Live Crew from like way back in the day. And I still, man, I laugh when I think about it. And then there's, of course, one of my favorite scenes in that movie too was the movie where he like turns the corner to start walking down the middle of the aisle in like a big Catholic church. Then he just puts a cigarette between his lips and lights it and starts walking down. My Best Friend's Girl is a great movie. Definitely underrated. Another Dane Cook movie, Good Luck Chuck, which is sort of like in that same vein with My Best Friend's Girl.
Yeah, Dane Cook had a trilogy of movies that came out. My Best Friend's Girl, Good Luck Chuck, and Employee of the Month, that were all kind of similar, I feel like.
Yeah.
Back then.
And not terrible either. I mean, they made you laugh. They were definitely hilarious movies.
Oh, yeah, they were movies that, like, when they were coming out, I remember watching, like, Dane Cook's stand-up on HBO, and then when they announced Employee of the Month, I was like, oh, my God, I can't wait. Dane Cook, he's the best comedian I've ever seen.
And then getting off of Dane Cook here, Blue Crush, which is also an aquatic-themed chick flick that is actually not terrible.
That was the other one. When you said kind of a triplet of movies, I was like, Blue Crush, maybe? That was the only other one I could think of.
Yeah, it's actually not a terrible movie. It was super underplayed. Like, I feel like even the art they use, like on Netflix for Blue Crush, just makes you not want to watch that movie as much as it should.
And that's another movie that has a direct-to-DVD sequel that hardly anybody knows about.
I had no idea.
See? Blue Crush 2.
Yep.
Also, Into the Blue. Into the Blue has one too. It's called Into the Blue, The Reef or something like that.
Yeah, the Reef. I am aware of that one. 51st Dates. I'm pretty sure they're in Hawaii, so that qualifies for aquatic themed.
Oh man, I love 51st Dates. God, I love 51st Dates.
That was like when Adam Sandler was starting to say, hey, I want to do movies that are different from the movies I've always done with, like all the traditional Happy Gilmore style movies. And I think that's where he peaked in like the romantic comedy thing. Because then he tried to get serious and he did like Click, which was just, again, too sad. We've already talked about sad movies. He did a few other movies like super later on. Like I know Blended came out not long ago, like wasn't super great. Like I don't know. I just think 51st Dates was probably where he peaked as far as unusual, more family, more rom-com, not, Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison.
I think 51st Dates was also the movie where Adam Sandler was finally like, hey, like my star power is pretty big at this point. I'm only going to choose movies where I can get paid to go on vacation.
Yeah, that's true.
Every movie after that. Grown Ups, he got paid to go hang out with his friends by a lake for like 3 months. In Blended, he got paid to go to Africa. 51st Dates, he got paid to go to Hawaii. Like he just looks at movies and he's like, oh yeah, that one looks good. Where's that one set? Yeah, let's do that. He just gets paid to go on vacation with all of his buddies.
I think you might be onto something there.
It's not, I mean, honestly, it's not a bad. It's not, like once your star power reaches enough where you're like, I want to go to Hawaii, see who has a script set in Hawaii, and then you're just like, yep, that one, and I'm gonna hire all my friends. We're all gonna go get paid to hang out in Hawaii for 3 months. It's not a bad life to live.
No, but you want to know what this next one on my list is probably top of the list for like the best action romantic comedy. And that has got to be Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, yeah. I loved Mr. and Mrs. Smith when it came out. We got to see like a special sneak preview of Mr. and Mrs. Smith like a week before it was supposed to come out. And they gave us all like these free posters and stuff. And still right next to my bed at my house in North Carolina where I grew up is an Angelina Jolie Mrs. Smith poster sitting right next to my bed.
Awesome. Hitch was probably one of the more underrated Will Smith movies that came out sort of during his heyday when he was making loads of action movies. All of a sudden, Hitch just kind of came out of nowhere, and I always thought that was a great movie.
Yeah, I remember liking the first, 45 minutes of Hitch. I had a problem when I was a kid with dramedy movies because I would be there for the comedy, but then once it started to get more sad, it just I just tuned my brain out. So I was there to see Will Smith and Kevin James, but then once it kind of took a turn for the more serious and it was like a love story, just something about little kid Zach was not for me. I just didn't like it for the rest of the time I watched it.
I could see that. I could totally give you that with Hitch. And next on my list is 10 Things I Hate About You, which was probably more of a teen movie than chick flick, but I think it was the first movie I ever watched where I went into it thinking it was going to be a chick flick because I was pressured into it, or my sister wanted to watch it, or a girlfriend or somebody at the time, and then remember thinking, oh, this isn't half bad. And that was sort of before teen movies were out in full force too.
Yeah, and it's funny that you would bring that up. It is actually today is the 20th anniversary of 10 Things I Hate About You when it premiered in theaters. It was today, 20 years ago. That
is why you have a movie podcast, Zach. Because you have facts like that on deck.
Well, it's not. No, I didn't just know it offhand. I actually saw it earlier today. Joseph Gordon-Levitt posted about it.
I mean, it's March 31st, 2019, dude. Been waiting on this day for a long time. The anniversary. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, and 10 Things I Hate About You is one that I always stayed away from because I just thought it was more of a chick flick movie when I was a kid, and it just wasn't something that interested me. And then we actually we were reading Shakespeare in a senior English class, and that's 10 Things I Hate About You is based off of the Shakespeare play Taming of the Shrew.
True.
And so as kind of like our like gift at the end of reading Shakespeare, our teacher was like, okay, now you can just hang out for like 2 days and we'll watch 10 Things I Hate About You. And I was like, oh, whatever. Yeah, don't care, whatever. And then within the first 30 minutes, I was the kid who in class, like if somebody was talking, I was just like, shh, be quiet. We're trying to watch a movie. Like I just got so super into it. It got to the point where the teacher was like, Zach, I'll let you borrow my VHS after class and you can just take it home and watch. You got to stop telling everybody to shut up in class. It's just supposed to be like a fun 2 days. You got to be quiet.
I feel like that is not a movie that they should let you watch in school.
Oh no, she was a really cool teacher.
Okay.
She was cool. She is one of like the only 2 teachers from high school that I'm friends with on Facebook because she was so cool to everybody.
Word. And then here at the bottom of the list were probably maybe some older ones, but just some honorable mentions. And that is Miss Congeniality, which I think we've already talked about, What Women Want, and Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman was another one. We watched, oh no, we didn't watch Pretty Woman. I always get Pretty Woman and Erin Brockovich confused.
Yep, big difference.
Yeah, a huge difference. And I was like, oh yeah, we totally we watched Pretty Woman in class. We did not watch Pretty Woman in class. We watched Erin Brockovich in class.
Yeah. All right, yeah, well that wraps it up for me there, brother.
Yeah, I mean, that was all I had on my list. We went through all of my genre stuff. Well, do you have a quick pitch? Do you got something you want to pitch? You want to pitch a Fool's Gold 2? You got something in the chamber ready to go?
I mean, I would just say that there needs, like how this is always my cop-out, there just needs to be another good one, dude. I want another treasure hunting couples movie set in the Caribbean with Jamaican or other Caribbean gangsters.
I think that's just something that just plays to your aesthetic. It's the same as me being like, oh, I want another like a good coming of age movie. Like it's never something that I'm always up for another good coming of age movie. It's just something that I'm always going to be interested in. If somebody comes up to me tomorrow and they're like, hey, look at this. It's a movie that I've never heard of, but they're like, it's a good coming of age movie. I'll take it home and watch it that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Definitely same for me. If it's set in the Caribbean, you've got me pretty much already, as long as it looks good. And treasure hunting is just always fun, man. And for a while there, we got quite a few movies that were treasure hunting-esque, but not so much anymore.
Yeah. Well, my quick pitch, something I've been ruminating on for a while. So there's a school, and basically the school goes underfunded. And they have to cut a lot of extracurricular activities. They cut all the sports and everything. So all of the cheerleaders are now like, what are we going to do? People never respected us as a sport in the first place, but now we're being cut. It's not fair. We need to do something to get back like in line. We need people to take us seriously again. We need to show that we need funding. And so they see a dance competition. There's no cheer competition they can enter because they're not officially a cheer squad, but they see a dance competition open and they're like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's get on TV. Let's win this thing. And let's show everybody that we deserve the funding that they're cutting from us. And so they go to a dance competition, and who do they happen to take on? The crew from Step Up. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Bring It On versus Step Up.
I love it. I love everything about it. The biggest crossover of our generation.
It's the one that people have been clamoring for.
It is the crossover to end all crossovers.
I mean, I know people are excited about Avengers Endgame, but I dare them to be excited about Avengers Endgame once they hear about Bring It On versus Step Up.
And it has to be that, like, versus.
Yo, you know, it's definitely a versus. They're in dance battles together. And then because there's gonna be a cool thing where they're doing cheer moves and the audience likes that, and the Step Up people can't compete with that because they only know dance. But then the Step Up people do dance and the audience likes that, and the cheer squad's like, well, we don't know any dance, we only know cheer moves. And so eventually they come together like every good Bring It On movie. The squads have to come together and they form one big cheerleader step-up crew, and they do cheers and dances together, and they win the competition together. They get funded, and they go on, they have like a big show and everything. It's great. Great movie. Channing Tatum's going to have a cameo in it.
And then after that, you could find the need for them to enter a singing competition and get the Pitch Perfect universe in there.
Now you're jumping off. Now you're jumping the shark. You're going off the deep end here, Crocker. I can't be party to that.
Okay. We'll see with the success of the biggest crossover of all time. We may have to step up for the next one.
We got to step up to the streets.
That's right.
And that's actually the name of the second one. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Scruffy Movies podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. I know it was predicated on an April Fool's joke, but hopefully this was a fun podcast. You know, it was nice to kind of not have a big structure. It was nice to just kind of talk about stuff that we were interested in. So we hope you guys enjoyed it as much fun as we've had with it today. Again, if you want to win a free digital copy of Aquaman, all you got to do is enter the code word water below on the YouTube video you're watching right now, or send me a direct message at ScruffyMovies on Instagram. Again, the code word is water. Please follow us on Instagram at ScruffyMovies.
And Crockalicious.
Thank you guys for listening. Next week, we will be back with a really cool one. It's going to kind of be Marvel-centric here for a while as we get ready for Endgame. But, I mean, everybody who listens to this knows that it was coming. We've had more Marvel episodes than I think anything else we've done so far. So you knew it was going to be coming. We're leading up to the biggest event in the Marvel Cinematic Universe history. So it's going to be Marvel-centric for a while, but we hope you guys will enjoy it, and we will see you all then.
Bye.